I was in a boardroom in Kuala Lumpur watching a senior executive Malaysian Chinese give a presentation. For 20 minutes, he spoke flawless, British-accented English, dissecting complex global market data. He was the picture of a modern international businessman. Then his phone rang. He apologized, took the call, and his entire posture changed. He was suddenly speaking rapid-fire Mandarin, negotiating, his tone shifting, arguing, then laughing, all with an intensity that was completely different from the man we saw moments before. He hung up, turned to an assistant, and gave a brief, clear instruction in perfect Bahasa Malay. In less than 3 minutes, he had navigated 3 different languages, 3 different cultural worlds, without even blinking. It wasn't just impressive, it felt like a key, a tool for survival and for success. But it also left me with a question. When you have to be a master of everyone else's language just to operate, what does that mean for your own?
That image you painted, it perfectly captures this really complex reality for Malaysian Chinese today. What you saw wasn't just, speaking different languages.
No, it felt much deeper.
Exactly. It was this dynamic, almost strategic fluency, a kind of high-level cultural juggling act, really. Right. You've got economics, national identity, global politics, all rolled into one person's daily routine. This community, they're right at this incredible intersection point.
Absolutely. So that's what we're doing today, right? Taking a deep dive into this unique community. We want to look at, 3 interconnected things. First, that strategic multilingualism, how it functions as a real economic asset. Second, their role, which seems pretty indispensable, in integrating China's Belt and Road Initiative into, the reality of Southeast Asia.
Right, the practical side of it.
And finally, the maybe profound cultural shifts, maybe even painful sometimes, that come with the global rise of Standard Mandarin.
And what's so fascinating, what the research suggests, is that they aren't just adapting to this multicultural setting. They're actually positioned, maybe uniquely, to lead it. Well, they function almost like this human operating system, often quietly behind the scenes.
Yeah.
They're the bridge connecting Western management thinking, local regulations, regional trade, and those deep ancestral business networks.
It sounds like a position they've really had to earn.
Oh, absolutely. Generations of incredibly complex adaptation, strategic choices made over decades. It's an elite skill set, really.
Okay, let's dig into that strategic advantage first then, because like you said, it's not just theory, it's happening daily, turning language skills into, market power.
Indeed. And maybe the best way to grasp this is to think about the power of 3, as we're calling it, embodied in one person's workday. Let's imagine someone like Mai. She's, say, a 30-year-old regional logistics manager based in Penang, working for a German multinational.
Okay, so walk us through Mai's day. What does this power of 3 look like for her?
Right, so her day starts early. Hamburg HQ, they demand efficiency, total transparency, constant reporting. So 9 a.m., she's on a video call discussing, volatile shipping rates, supply chain issues, all in precise, perfect English. She knows the jargon, the international finance speak. She's the picture of global professionalism.
Got it. The global face.
But the best global plan means absolutely nothing if the containers are stuck at the port, right?
True.
So by 11 a.m., May's on the phone. This time it's a local port official in Port Klang. And instantly she switches. Fluent Bahasa Malaysia. Polite, culturally aware, navigating all the bureaucracy, getting that crucial customs clearance.
Different language, different tone entirely, I imagine.
Completely different. Deferential, patient, very localized. This is where, local relationships bump up against global deadlines.
Okay, so that's 2 languages, 2 worlds. What's the third?
The afternoon. She's hosting a delegation. Potential new suppliers flown in from Shenzhen, China.
Ah, okay. Mandarin time.
Mandarin time. But this isn't just about translating specs. This is high-stakes relationship building. She's talking technical details, sure, but she's also reading the room, picking up on subtle cultural cues, maybe sharing a meal, building that essential trust.
That concept of guangxi we hear about.
Exactly, guangxi. And it's crucial, you understand, it's often misunderstood in the West as just networking. It's much, much deeper than that.
How so?
It's about building these deep, reciprocal, trusted personal connections. They go way beyond a single contract or transaction. So May's ability to use Mandarin, to tap into that tradition, to build that guangxi, while simultaneously meeting those strict German contractual demands in English, that is the strategic advantage.
Wow. So in one day, she's bridged Hamburg, Port Klang, and Shenzhen. Germany, Malaysia, China, 3 continents, 3 economic mindsets.
Precisely. She's the indispensable link. And that level of linguistic agility, that's the competitive edge for Malaysia itself, really. Secured one trilingual conversation after another.
But this kind of fluency, it doesn't just happen, right? It must come from somewhere. It's built on something.
Oh, absolutely. It's rooted in this massive and frankly unique educational foundation, something you rarely see outside of Greater China. Mainland China, Hong Kong, Taiwan, Macau.
What kind of foundation are we talking about?
We have to acknowledge the sheer integrity, the completeness of the Malaysian Chinese education system. It's not just like weekend classes. It's a full pipeline.
A pipeline?
Yeah, designed for cultural and linguistic continuity. Starts with Chinese kindergarten. Then you have 12,298 Chinese primary schools, 61 independent Chinese secondary schools, and it goes all the way up to 3 private Chinese college universities.
1,298 primary schools teaching in Chinese within the Malaysian national system. That's huge. That's a massive institutional commitment.
The scale is frankly remarkable. And look at the enrollment numbers. In those primary schools, you've got nearly 600,000 students. But here's the kicker, the really surprising detail from the sources.
There were.
Around 80,000 of those students are not ethnically Chinese. They're from other groups, mostly Malay and Indian families.
Wait, 80,000? Non-Chinese kids actively enrolling in Chinese language immersion schools. That changes things, doesn't it?
It completely reframes it. The wisdom isn't just about preserving heritage anymore. It's becoming this national asset, something other communities see pragmatic value in and are choosing to tap into.
So the Chinese language itself plays multiple roles in Malaysia. It's not just one thing.
Exactly. It forces us to see its nuanced, kind of triple role. It operates in 3 distinct spheres, sometimes even contradictory ones, all at the same time.
Okay, let's break that down first.
First, undeniably, it's the mother tongue, the cultural anchor for the Malaysian Chinese community, their ancestral link.
Makes sense.
Second, objectively, if you look at the geopolitical setup, Chinese functions as a foreign language for Malaysia as a country. Because, the PRC, Taiwan, Hong Kong, the places that standardize and drive global Mandarin, they're foreign entities. That's just a classification reality.
Okay, a technical point, but important. And the third role?
The third one is critical, especially for the regional economy. It serves as this powerful common language, lingua franca, across Southeast Asia.
For the non-Yang countries, as the diaspora calls them.
Exactly. The non-Yang, the Southern Ocean, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, Brunei, the Philippines. These communities have traded and interacted for centuries. Mandarin now acts as a kind of modern binder for that network. It allows faster communication, faster trade, than relying only on English or, juggling multiple local languages.
This complex positioning, it leads right to a key idea in the research, doesn't it? This shift in how the language is viewed.
Yes, it's an explicit shift. Moving from seeing Chinese primarily as, cultural heritage, something to be preserved.
To seeing it as having immense practical value, instrumental value, resource value.
Precisely. It's now framed overtly as an economic resource, a competitive advantage that Malaysia can, and perhaps should, strategically deploy for national gain.
And the sources even suggest an obligation.
It's a compelling argument they present, that the Malaysian Chinese community, because of its unique proficiency, has both an advantage and maybe even an obligation to actively spread Chinese as a second language to other Malaysian groups. They specifically mention the Malay community.
Wow, that's a bold idea. Spreading Mandarin to Malays as a national strategy. What's the thinking behind that?
The reasoning seems to be twofold. It blends social harmony with economic competitiveness.
Okay, how does it promote harmony?
Socially, the idea is if more Malays learn Chinese, they'll gain a deeper, maybe more empathetic understanding of Chinese culture, perspectives, ways of thinking. This exposure, the argument goes, could foster better mutual understanding, maybe reduce some of the friction that comes from cultural misunderstandings.
So language as a tool for social cohesion, essentially.
Right. But then there's the economic angle, which is arguably the bigger prize.
What's the economic potential?
The ultimate goal or potential is for Malaysia to leverage this entire linguistic infrastructure, the schools, the teachers, the decades of experience to become a major regional hub.
A hub for what?
For Chinese language teaching, curriculum development, material research, serving all the non-Yang countries.
Ah, I see. So they'd be positioning themselves as the go-to place in Southeast Asia for learning Chinese and engaging with China linguistically.
Exactly. Think of the economic benefits. providing paid services, training, translation, cultural consulting. It would dramatically boost Malaysia's overall global competitiveness. They'd be taking this long-term cultural commitment and basically monetizing it, turning it into a sophisticated national asset that neighbors can't easily copy.
It's a really clever form of adaptation, using deep history to fuel future growth.
A masterclass in it, really.
Okay, that sets things up perfectly. If multilingualism is the human infrastructure, let's pivot to the massive opportunity that infrastructure is plugging into. China's Belt and Road Initiative, and how it works with those older diaspora networks.
Right, this is where you see this critical interplay. Top-down global strategy, like the BRI, meeting these bottom-up trust-based diaspora networks. We're talking about the sort of invisible wiring of regional business, the bamboo network.
Let's make that concrete. Tell us about Mr. Liu.
Okay, picture Mr. Liu. Runs a medium-sized construction supply business in Pahang State. Solid business, built over decades, serving local contractors, small government jobs. Stable.
Right, the local guy.
Then suddenly, these huge Belt and Road projects get announced. New industrial parks, massive rail links, port expansions.
A potential boom for him.
Initially, no. He felt completely sidelined, overwhelmed, frustrated even. These giant contracts, they were going straight to the big Chinese state-owned enterprises, the SOEs. They brought their own supply chains, their own methods. Mr. Liu felt like global capital had just rolled over him.
So the SOEs didn't need local suppliers like him.
They thought they didn't at first.
Yeah.
But these SOEs, experts in engineering, yes, but they hit immediate serious problems on the ground.
Like what?
They're building this massive East Coast rail link, right? But they're drowning in the local complexities, navigating Malaysian bureaucracy permits, local labor laws, managing subcontractors who mostly speak Bahasa Malaysia or local dialects, figuring out where to reliably source specific local materials, like certain types of gravel or sand. It was a mess.
They needed local knowledge badly.
More than knowledge, they needed trust. And that's where the bamboo network comes in for Mr. Liu. He has a cousin. Runs a successful trading company back in Guangzhou, China.
Ah, the family connection.
Decades of shared history, mutual trust between them. This cousin knows someone, a mid-level manager at the SOE, working on the rail project. An introduction is made.
So Mr. Liu gets a meeting.
He walks in, technically as a potential supplier, but within minutes, he becomes indispensable. Why? His triple fluency.
English, Malay, Mandarin.
Exactly. Perfect Mandarin to explain the local regulations, the cultural nuances to the Chinese engineers. Flawless Bahasa Malaysia to negotiate directly with local officials and subcontractors. He didn't just sell them concrete and steel, he became their cultural translator, their local problem solver, their essential liaison.
He became the grease in the wheels.
He literally became the lubricant, making the whole giant BRI machine actually work on the ground in Pahang. He reduced risk for the SOE, sped up permits, managed local issues. And in doing so, Mr. Liu didn't just get contracts. He secured his family's future by leveraging a trust network, generations old, to grab a brand new global opportunity.
That story just perfectly illustrates the synergy, doesn't it? BRI is the huge top-down strategy. The bamboo network is the established ground-level trust system.
And the second one is absolutely vital for the first one to succeed. It provides the cultural access, the linguistic keys, the political know-how to actually localize these massive investments.
Which helps explain why Malaysia is such a key player in the BRI.
Absolutely. Since BRI kicked off in 2013, Malaysia's been incredibly pragmatic. It's become the largest recipient in Southeast Asia if you look at the financial scale and the sheer variety of projects. It consistently ranks high in those Belt and Road Index reports.
And this engagement usually gets broken down into those 5 connectivity areas from the BRI framework, right?
That's right. It's a useful way to analyze it. Let's start with the policy coordination.
Okay, the high-level government stuff.
Yeah, basically aligning strategies, keeping those bilateral ties strong. And Malaysia-China relations go way back, remember, to 1974. So there's a deep foundation, lots of high-level visits back and forth. But this area did see some serious bumps around the 2018 political change in Malaysia.
Right. The change in government led to a lot of projects being reviewed, put on hold. What did that period show us?
It actually revealed the underlying resilience of the relationship. The big example was the East Coast Rail Link, the ECRL. Initially, it was costed at, RM 65.5 billion. The new government raised red flags about the cost, the debt, put it on pause.
Major wobble.
Huge. But after a lot of diplomacy, back and forth, they renegotiated. The project resumed in 2019, but at a lower cost, RM 44 billion.
The fact they renegotiated rather than just canceling it? That says a lot.
It really does. It shows that even with political shifts and necessary budget cuts, the core strategic value was recognized by both sides. And the current administration, under Anwar, seems to be continuing that pragmatic path. They talk about high-quality cooperation, now focusing more on areas like the digital economy, green energy, not just the heavy infrastructure of the past.
Okay, which brings us neatly to the most visible bit. Infrastructure connectivity, the actual rails and ports.
Exactly. This is where China's funding and construction muscle has been really significant. You've got the Jimash-Johor Bahru electrified double-tracking project for the railway. But the ECRO is the flagship, no question.
Why is it seen as such a big deal?
It's designed to be an economic game changer, linking the more developed West Coast with the less developed East Coast. The hope is it promotes more balanced national growth, reduces inequality between regions.
Big ambitions. What about the maritime side? Ports.
Crucial. The Maritime Silk Road, part of BRI. You see the Kuantan Port Expansion Project, a RM4 billion joint venture between a Chinese group and a Malaysian firm. It's specifically designed to serve the big Malaysia-China Kuantan Industrial Park right next door. Infrastructure supporting industry.
Now, there were also some energy pipeline projects that ran into trouble, weren't there?
Yes, that's right. The multi-product pipeline and the Trans-Sabah gas pipeline. Huge projects, RM 9.4 billion, awarded to the China Petroleum Pipeline Bureau. But these got canceled in 2018.
Why?
Financial irregularities. The big issue is that apparently 88% of the money had been paid out, but only about 13% of the work was actually done.
Ouch. That sounds like a major setback for BRI's image.
It was definitely a blow. But interestingly, even here you see the persistence of the strategic need, the Trans-Sabah gas pipeline. It was actually revived later in 2021.
So even after a major scandal, the project came back.
It suggests the underlying need for that energy infrastructure eventually trumped the short-term political fallout or contractual mess. Pragmatism tends to win out in the long run.
Okay, let's shift gears to the Digital Silk Road, DSR. This feels like a really fast-moving area. What's happening there?
Malaysia has really leaned into the DSR. A key move was setting up the Digital Free Trade Zone, the DFTZ, back in 2017. That was a big partnership with Alibaba.
And that wasn't just a physical zone, right?
No, not at all. It was about integrating Malaysian small and medium businesses, SMEs, into the global digital economy, creating the digital pathways, the on-ramps, for thousands of smaller local companies to trade online internationally.
They also brought in some pretty advanced tech for cities.
Yes, the Malaysia City Brain Initiative, using Alibaba Cloud's AI to crunch massive amounts of urban data. Primarily used for things like optimizing traffic flow, improving emergency response times, using tech to make public services smarter, basically.
And the logistics piece, e-commerce needs delivery.
Absolutely critical. Alibaba's logistics arm, Cainiao, teamed up with Malaysia Airports to build the Cainiao Aeropolis EWTP hub. It's this massive logistics center near KL Airport. The goal? Turn Malaysia into the regional e-commerce distribution hub for Southeast Asia.
Any sense of the economic impact?
The projections are pretty significant. Something like RM 4.2 billion added to Malaysia's GDP, potentially creating over 35,000 jobs. That's serious impact, linking digital platforms to physical logistics.
Okay, third area, unimpeded trade and investment. This seems like where the Malaysian Chinese community's role is really front and center.
This is the bedrock, really.
Yeah.
China has been Malaysia's biggest trading partner since 2009. That's, 15 years running? In 2023, trade with China was over 17% of Malaysia's total global trade. It's a deep, symbiotic relationship.
And where trade goes, investment usually follows.
For sure. Chinese foreign direct investment, FDI, really surged after the BRI launch. Between 2016 and 2020, China was the top source of FDI in Malaysia's manufacturing sector, averaging RM 7.5 billion a year. But it hasn't slowed down. The investment commitments PNN Ornware secured in China in 2023 hit record levels, over RM 189 billion pledged.
Wow. What kind of sectors are we talking about?
It's broad now. You see that two countries, twin parks, model the industrial parks in Kuantan, Malaysia, and Kinzhou, China. MC Kibai in Kuantan has attracted huge investments, like Alliance Steel's massive integrated steel plant. But it's not just heavy industry.
Right.
It's real estate, it's technology, like a big microchip testing facility, it's renewable energy, and increasingly it's the electric vehicle sector. That Geely DRB Hicam joint venture is huge, around RM 32 billion, focused on making Malaysia an EV hub, deep integration across many modern sectors.
Okay, fourth pillar, financial integration. How are they greasing the wheels financially for all this trade and investment?
A key focus is currency stability and using local currencies more. The central banks of Malaysia and China, Bank Negara and the PBOC, They keep renewing their currency swap agreement. Most recently in 2023, it's a big one. CNY 180 billion or RM 110 billion.
What does that swap actually do?
It helps stabilize things financially in the region, and crucially, it makes it easier to settle trade deals directly in ringgit and renminbi, reducing reliance on the US dollar.
Which also boosts Malaysia's role as a regional hub for the renminbi.
Exactly. Malaysia was quick off the mark, the second country in ASEAN, after Singapore, to set up an official renminbi clearing bank in KL. That positions it as a key gateway for RMB flows into Southeast Asia. Good for Malaysian banks and businesses trading with China.
And they're involved in those new infrastructure banks, too.
Yes, Malaysia was a founding member of the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, the AIIB. They've put in over US $100 million. Interestingly, no major Malaysian project has actually gotten AIIB funding yet. But being a founding member gives them a seat at the table and a potential future channel for infrastructure finance.
Okay, that brings us to the fifth pillar, which connects right back to where we started. People-to-people exchange.
And this is arguably the foundation for everything else. You need that social capital, that understanding, for durable cooperation. Tourism is a massive part of this.
Especially with the new visa-free travel.
Exactly. Since they introduced mutual visa-free policies, the numbers are expected to skyrocket. Malaysia's aiming for over 6 million Chinese tourists in 2025. And you see airlines adding more and more flights between Chinese cities and Malaysian destinations to support that.
And the education system we talked about earlier plays a role here, too.
A huge role, through direct institutional links. China's actively expanded its educational footprint. Xiamen University built its first ever overseas campus in Sepang, near KL. A RM 1.3 billion investment signed back in 2013. That's a landmark move.
The first overseas campus for any Chinese university.
Ever. It's monumental. Plus, you have, I think, 8 Confucius Institutes established across Malaysia by 2023, promoting language and cultural learning in different regions.
It feels like a very long-term strategy, building understanding beyond just tourism.
Absolutely. It's about building a shared knowledge base, shared experiences. They've opened a China Cultural Center in KL, set up numerous sister city links, like between Penang and Xi'an. And often, these initiatives deliberately leverage those existing ancestral and trade ties that the Malaysian Chinese community has nurtured for centuries.
Okay, we've seen the massive scale of BRI engagement. Let's circle back to why it's worked relatively well in Malaysia, despite those bumps like in 2018. What are the key underlying factors?
The analysis points to 3 main things, and the diaspora is kind of woven through all of them. First, those strong, long-standing bilateral relations. That historical foundation provides a buffer, a level of trust that can absorb political shocks.
Okay, history matters. What else?
Second, Malaysia's own pragmatism. Its ability to align these big BRI projects with its own national development plans like the Economic Transformation Program or the National Energy Transition Roadmap. The projects have to demonstrably benefit Malaysia first, not just China.
Makes sense. And the third factor, it's about local politics.
Right, the elite dynamics within Malaysia. It's about the strategic use of these BRI partnerships by Malaysian political elites to shore up their own domestic legitimacy. Why does a project like the ECRL survive across different governments, even with renegotiation? Because it taps into a powerful narrative of national unity, of developing the less developed East Coast, of connecting the nation.
And the Malaysian Chinese community? The Mr. Lus?
Yeah.
They're the ones making it actually happen on the ground.
They provide the essential grease, the local trust, the regulatory know-how, the operational capacity. They translate that high-level political will, those grand strategies, into physical reality on Malaysian soil. Their fluency, English, Malay, Mandarin, it's the critical ingredient.
Without them, the projects might just stall.
Easily. They'd get bogged down in bureaucracy, cultural missteps, local resistance. That fluency is what makes Malaysia arguably China's most effective BRI partner in the region.
It's a fascinating dynamic, leveraging ancestral ties for national economic benefit. But this leads us straight into the final section, the cultural impact within the community, the rise of global Mandarin. What's the cost of this adaptation?
And this is where you really see the double-edged sword. The way Chineseness is being transmitted is changing profoundly and quickly. Standardized Mandarin is on the rise. You could call it resinification. It's undeniably enriching Chinese culture globally, making it more accessible. Right. But locally, in Malaysia, it's speeding up the decline of the traditional Chinese heritage languages. Those southern dialects, Hokkien, Cantonese, Hakka, that were the heart and soul of the diaspora for generations.
Let's bring this tension to life again. Tell us about Grace, the young digital marketer.
Right, Grace. Living in KL, her linguistic life, for years was neatly divided. Fluent English for her cool digital marketing job, easy, fluent Malay with friends at the local food stall, the mamak.
And
At home, it was Hokkien, the dialect her grandparents spoke. Mandarin, that was just that annoying school subject she had to get through. Her cultural world was very Western Netflix, global pop, American business gurus.
But something changed for her.
Yeah, recently. She got completely hooked on one of those high-budget Chinese historical dramas. Amazing production values, complex story, sophisticated dialogue. It wasn't just the plot, it was the whole cultural package.
And that led to other things.
It pulled her into the whole contemporary Chinese cultural scene. Modern pop music from the mainland, tech blogs out of Shenzhen, contemporary novels. She started following it all.
So it wasn't academic anymore, it was genuine interest.
Exactly, a voluntary cultural immersion. She found herself actually practicing her Mandarin. Not for a test, but just to understand the nuances, the online discussions. But here's the twist.
That happened.
This new connection to modern global China didn't make her feel less Malaysian. If anything, it had the opposite effect.
Really?
It made her more curious about her own specific local Malaysian Chinese roots. This surge of interest in the global version of her culture made her want to understand the local version better. So she started proactively asking her grandfather about his life story, his migration journey, his early years in Malaysia, and doing it in Hokkien, her heritage language.
Wow. So connecting with global China reinforced her local identity.
It's that core paradox. The strategic need for Mandarin is boosting a sense of Chinese identity, yes. But that very reinforcement is speeding up the loss of the specific local dialects, the languages that hold the actual lived history of the diaspora in Malaysia.
Mandarin becomes the language of the future, but it risks erasing the linguistic footprint of the past.
And researchers see this shift happening across key areas of life, often driven by very pragmatic, intentional choices, not just accidental drift.
Where do we see it most clearly? The home, maybe.
The home environment is definitely a key battleground, especially in marriages between Chinese people from different dialect groups.
Right, if a Hokkien speaker marries a Cantonese speaker.
Mandarin often becomes the default language, the language of solidarity. Simply because their dialects might not be mutually understandable, it's the practical choice for keeping the family communicating.
And parents are making choices too.
Absolutely. This is crucial. Parents are consciously choosing to prioritize Mandarin at home. Why? To give their kids a head start in the Chinese medium schools.
Because Mandarin is the language of instruction there.
Solely. So fluency in Mandarin is seen as essential for academic success, for getting ahead in Malaysia's very competitive exam-focused system. The pressures of the present are pushing out the dialects of the past, right in the family home.
And this pressure extends beyond the home into public life.
Oh, definitely. Politics, community activities. Mandarin has really become the dominant lingua franca. You hear about figures like policymaker Kok Leong, fluent in his native Cantonese, but he had to learn Mandarin as an adult, instrumentally, just to connect effectively with his own constituents, even in areas where Cantonese used to be dominant.
So if you want to engage broadly within the community now, Mandarin is basically essential.
Non-negotiable, it seems.
Even in places like temples or churches, you'd think those would hold on to tradition longer.
You would, but the standardizing force is powerful. In Buddhist temples, increasingly, Mandarin is the language for chanting, for sermons, the reasoning, standardization, unity. Communicating effectively to a congregation that might include Hokkien, Hakka, and Cantonese speakers all in the same service.
So efficiency and broader reach trump linguistic diversity, even in religion.
It seems so. Same thing reported in some Catholic churches in Penang Mandarin, replacing local dialects for homilies, readings, even hymns. It's about reaching the widest audience possible with a single standard language.
And this standardization even affects names, how people spell their family names.
Yes, and that's deeply symbolic, isn't it? Historically, Malaysian Chinese often spelled their names in English based on how they sounded in their local dialect, like Li instead of Li.
Right.
Now, there's a noticeable trend towards using the standardized Hanyu pinyin spellings, the ones based on Mandarin pronunciation, even in Roman letters.
So changing the spelling of your name from, say, a Hokkien-based one to a pinyin one, that's an ideological statement almost.
Consciously or unconsciously, it aligns your identity more with the standardized, globalized version of Chinese culture, rather than the specific migration history of your family in Southeast Asia, which the older spelling might represent.
Some might see it as necessary modernization for a globalized world.
Exactly. But the cost is potentially erasing that link to a unique, local, diasporic past embedded in the name itself. it really captures the core tension. The community deeply values its Chinese identity, its education system. But the language used to transmit the Chineseness has decisively shifted, from diverse heritage languages to standardized Mandarin.
Resulting in that slow, maybe inevitable loss of those specific local histories, the unique stories of how the community came to be in Malaysia. It's a strategic choice, yes, for engaging with today's world, but it fundamentally changes what being Chinese in Malaysia means.
It's the ultimate balancing act, local history versus global relevance.
Okay, we have covered a huge amount of ground here. We started with that single executive juggling 3 languages in a KL boardroom. And now I think we understand that fluency isn't just a skill, it's the defining reality for an entire community, a community that's strategically vital.
Absolutely. The Malaysian Chinese story is just this remarkable narrative of adaptation spanning generations. They've skillfully used those old trust networks, the bamboo network, to grab hold of massive 21st century opportunities like BRI and the digital Silk Road.
Yeah.
They really are providing that essential human element for regional growth.
And that advanced multilingualism, the English, the Bahasa Malay, the Mandarin, it's way more than just an interesting cultural trait. It's a core economic engine, isn't it? Boosting Malaysia's competitiveness significantly, regionally and globally.
Without a doubt. And their challenge, the one they live every day, is that constant, really fascinating balancing act. How do you stay deeply Malaysian, fiercely loyal to your unique local identity, while also leveraging your ancestral links, your linguistic links, to a globally rising China?
They're not just watching these huge global shifts happen.
No, they're actively shaping them. They're proving that maybe the most valuable currency in our interconnected world today is that capacity for effortless strategic fluency across cultures and languages. They've really defined a new kind of success built on deliberate, dynamic hybridity.